was I living?
Before World War II.
Okay, I was born and raised in Watsonville, in Japantown, which is southern part of the city, and our family has been in Watsonville since 1914.
And it was your mother, your father, and all your brothers?
Yes, my father was a cook, so we had a little restaurant, udon shop, that's noodles. Okay. And then when he died in 1938, when I was going on 3, the restaurant closed, and my mother became a farmer.
Okay. Was there any other family that you had in Watsonville, or?
No, the brothers, okay, were my family.
What did you think about the beginning of the war?
Well, you know, you're 6.5 years old, and we live in Japantown, but the one thing that people had in common in Japantown, we're all poor. So the Japanese, the Chinese, the Filipino, the Mexicans, the Croatians, the Portuguese, the Italians, the Germans were poor, lived in the same area, and we went to the same elementary school. So there's comfort in that, right? And not every city in California welcomed the Japanese. So many people got their start in Watsonville when they came from Japan. So Japan was Watsonville was a friendlier place than most cities.
After your internment, what did you do? Where did you go?
After the internment, okay, I was in the 5th grade, and so I will continue to go to school, and it was comforting, and I'll tell you why, because Miss Flores, who was my 8th grade teacher, taught my brother, taught my brother, taught my brother, taught my brother, and taught me. So there's a close relationship and a friendly relationship. The other brothers, the older brothers, one of them stayed in Japan. He was with the military, and he was fighting in the war against the Japanese. And he stayed in Japan with the occupation and the restoration of Japan. In fact, he'll make it a career being working for the United States Air Force. He became a civilian, but he worked for the United States Air Force during the Korean War and the Vietnam War. So one other brother went to Minnesota, and he promised never to come back to California because it was a racist state, except for 2 things. One, take the kids to Disneyland, and the other was my mother's funeral. And he kept his promise. But he learned that California had changed so much in terms of human relationships that when he died, and this really surprised me, he wanted to be buried in Watsonville.
So your family returned to Watsonville after the
We returned to Watsonville. Watsonville was one of the places where we were welcomed, although the Chamber of Commerce voted not to hire us, not to rent to us, not to sell to us, and they wanted, there was a petition to take our citizenship away, but that didn't go anywhere. Some cities really didn't want us back. Santa Cruz was one. Salinas and Hollister in this locale. Watsonville and Monterey were nicer. And one of the reasons why Monterey was nicer, okay, is there was an earthquake and fire in San Francisco in 1906. Well, many of the artists, the intelligentsia, moved to Carmel and Big Sur. And so whenever you find people who are more knowledgeable, more experienced, more, that more experiences outside of Santa Cruz County, you find that they're open to ideas and different people.
And you still had your house when you came back?
We still had our house. We didn't sell it, so we were fortunate in that sense. Whereas other people who sold their home, you know, they had to find jobs and a place to live. Some of them went to Seabrook Farm, New Jersey,
Oh, wow.
and that was a company town that Bird's Eye Frozen Foods. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it was one of the companies where they grew vegetables and froze them. And Japanese Americans went there. So, but Watsonville was always a nicer place.
How are the interactions between the Latino community and Japanese American community?
Well, you know, when you're both poor, okay, and struggling, you have a lot of, you know, there's a lot of understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't competition. Okay, because ever since I was 10 years old, I worked out in the fields picking strawberries. Strawberries was my college scholarship. But raspberries, I cut lettuce, thin lettuce, tomatoes, celery, apples. And you're working right alongside Mexican-American students. And for me, okay, vacation was school, summer was not. We didn't have child labor laws, so that the first 4 years of my life, like working out in the fields, I didn't get Social Security credits or no.
So there was no hostilities or resentment for like the Cero program or anything like that?
No, not with the Japanese American community. A lot, you know, we're getting to the point where we really didn't want to work. That's hard work.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever picked strawberries
Yeah, I have.
for a whole day.
Not a whole day.
When you do it the whole summer, it you know, it's in summer after summer. You get to the point where no, you don't want to do this for a living.
Yeah.
Okay, and the way to break out of the circle of poverty is education. Thank goodness for free public education. You know, community colleges in California's university system, Cal State system, we're tremendously grateful to them because now we can, you know, move into the professional fields.
Yeah.
Now, earlier, before the war, you could get your degree in engineering and such, but you could become an architect, whatever, but nobody would hire you. So what happened is that many of those people, talented, brilliant people, they ended up on the farm. So World War II had you know, some advantages for us because it forced us to move from the West Coast to the Midwest into the East Coast, where we found acceptance.
How has the Japanese internment and community influence the evolution of Watsonville?
Watsonville is famous in the Japanese American community because so many people got their start here, and there are people who have relatives still in Watsonville. So when I go around to conferences and whatever, and they see my sign that says Watsonville, they will, you know, approach me. Do you know so and so? Okay.
That's interesting.
So Watsonville is famous.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's